Today is your day. Win or lose, live or die. Today, you leave your mark on history.
The Once and Future Nerd. Book 1, Princes of Iorden. Chapter 10, The Evening Redness in the West. Episode 1. My dearest listeners, I am both honored and saddened to tell you that we are rapidly approaching the climax of this portion of the tale.
6 seasons and a movie!
Quiet, mortal, you're interfering with the tone. Where was I? Right. Conclusion of the book. And although I have endeavored to relay the story as truthfully as possible, well, it is the undeniable nature of stories that the teller influences the tale, and in turn the tale changes the teller. If by the end of the day the story turns in a direction which surprises you, please forgive this wood sprite. I've done the best I can. Speaking of awkward transitions, Bryce Riverfell was doing the best he could to prepare the fort of Freehold for the battle with Traft's orcs. Men were rushing around, finding their places and relaying messages. Despite Bryce's training, the atmosphere held a tinge of panic. Although, to be fair, it was only due to Bryce's training that this panic was held to but a tinge. Riverfell himself was the maestro of the chaos.
I want all our ballistas on this wall loaded with pitch. Lighters wait for Gareth's command, then send them all the fucking fire we can. Gareth, as soon as we have a prayer of hitting Traft's engines, you light them and loose them. We got plenty of pitch, but we need to thin out his catapults and rams, and we need to see through that fog. All ballistas facing north, south, and east get the 3-inch bolts ready. They're not just gonna run at the front door like a bunch of morons.
The medic who was called the Professor emerged from the stairway in the wall.
Royne, don't you have civilians in your charge?
They're awake, and they can fight.
Fight? What, are you shitting me?
The girl's a mage, Bryce. A damned good one. I think we can use her.
For God's sakes, Royne. They can't have more than, 16, 17 years on them?
Sounds near right. And if they'd like to see 18, we need to win this battle.
Good mage, huh?
If what the men say is true, I understand now why the Templars wanted them, which is another thought that occurs to me. No one that age is supposed to be that good at combative magic.
You don't trust her, but you want me to put her on our lines.
Not just on the lines, on the front lines. If she isn't to be trusted, she can do us a lot less harm out in front than within the walls.
You're talking about a child like a pawn on a game board.
Yes, Bryce, and you're a goddamn general. Bryce grimaced, but waved at his lieutenant to go ahead. As the professor ran to fetch the children, a messenger ran up to Bryce.
General Riverfell, the half-orc requests parley.
A few minutes later, Bryce Riverfell led a small squad of guardsmen out into the open plain beyond the keep. An icy wind blew across the open space. The few men were dwarfed by the height of the walls and the bleak expanse of the plains. Far ahead of them loomed a wall of dark, Templar-conjured fog. In a beautiful display of symmetry, a squad of orcs emerged from the fog, and the two parties approached each other to parley. They halted when they were 20 yards apart. Bryce's men stood in precise formation, the orcs in a loose semicircle. Riverfell and Traft stared at each other across the divide. At a gesture from Bryce, the guardsman brought forward a tent. Traft and Riverfell sat alone around a small fire in the newly erected tent. Traft took a deep swig from a leather flask before offering it to Bryce. Bryce waved it away.
Too old for that shit, man. All my men were dead sure this was a trap.
What'd you tell them?
That I appreciated their counsel, but I was the only general around.
They follow you, even when they don't quite believe you.
And civic guardsmen learn pretty early to follow orders.
Don't sell yourself short, General. I think it's you they follow. You could use that.
Gotta admit you impressed me, kid. Never expected anyone would get this many orcs to fight all together. Don't think the elves did either.
In a way, I got the elves to thank. Only thing clans all agree on these days is hating the elves.
Well, they're certainly no saints.
Bryce, it's not too late to get on the right side of this thing.
You kinda lost the high ground when you opened the battle with a sneak attack. Your boys almost killed 3 sick kids.
I saw a tactical chance, can't blame me for that.
I can blame you for siding with the
I
Templars.
wasn't about to refuse the help.
There's some sick bastards, and you know it. What happened to you, kid?
You know damn well what happened. You know damn well who did it to me. You sit there and tell me I lost the high ground?
I'm not saying things don't need to change, but what are you gonna do, man? Burn down everything?
If I have to.
You didn't really kill all of Ironheart's kids, did you? Tell me they're making that up.
They've made up a lot of lies about me, but that ain't one.
Gods damn, man.
Easterners need to understand. They need to know what it's like to never be safe in your own skin. They need to fear the way we fear.
But little kids, they didn't do anything.
Neither did ours.
That don't make it right for you to just do the same.
Maybe not, but it takes the extreme to shake people out of their wicked routines. Too comfortable otherwise.
You don't have to be the monster they say you are.
I tried when I was young. I did everything I was supposed to. The model of chivalry. The lapdog of the elves. And they called me a monster anyway. Might as well be a monster who fights for right.
You know I can't let you through. Not if you're bringing goddamn Templars. Not if you're gonna string up little kids.
I'm not asking you to let us through. I'm asking you to join us.
Fuck, man, you know what I'm gonna say.
I do. But everyone deserves a choice. This is your last chance to get on the right side. You both know your life's ending soon either way. Mine too. Give your soul a chance.
Bryce Riverfell peered into the fire. After a long consideration, he reached for the flask and took a gulp of the moonshine inside.
Sorry, man. I got too many chickens in this coop.
You think you're keeping people safe? River folk are only as safe as the wood folk let you be. One day the elves will run out of the use for you. And then, the coop's not safe when the farmers are wolves.
And shit all runs downhill eventually. Doesn't mean we have to live in the latrine.
Shit runs where you dig a ditch.
Some hard-ass ground you're digging in.
You gotten soft in your old age, General.
Sword hasn't. Find me on the field and tell me how soft I've gotten.
Oh, I certainly will.
I used to knock you on your ass every time we sparred.
Of course you did. When second helpings of dinner were on the line, nothing could stop you.
Yeah, well, our rations were different. The rest of us weren't Reloteet's personal charity project.
That bloodthirsty old bitch taught me some pretty neat tricks, I'll give her that at least.
Now that I'd like to see.
You'll see more than you ever wanted.
Half-hour passage to get back to our lines?
Go ahead. Take an hour. I know how age can slow a man down.
With a small wave, Bryce Riverfell turned and left his erstwhile comrade behind. Atop the ramparts of Freehold, the 3 children looked out over the field of the impending battle. The professor was supervising, but from a few paces away, leaving the children a final few minutes of privacy.
Jenny, you sure about this?
I have to do something.
Those guys out there look serious.
You know, it's funny.
What is?
I'm not nervous. I used to get nervous before WoW raids, even though I wasn't an expert. Sweaty palms, heart racing, all that stuff. And here we are. Real battle. and way over our heads. And I'm not nervous. Scared, but not nervous.
I'm scared too, but I'm done hiding. Where do you want me, Professor?
Us. Where do you want us?
Just then, Bryce returned to the ramparts by means of a stairwell.
Professor,
I take it terms were not reached.
you three understand this is for real. This is war, and I can't promise we'll win it. What's more, if we lose, I can promise we'll be given no quarter at all.
If we bail and you lose, there's nowhere to hide anyway, is there?
Nope, don't suppose there is.
Well, then where do you want us?
Do you think Traft is wont to feign to the north or south before his first wave, General?
I'd figure both if he can spare the troops. He's gonna want to draw fire from our engines away from his. Jen, was it? I want you on the north wall. Professor, put more of our pike on the south, but give these three a personal guard. Treat them like fucking royalty.
Heavy armor for their guard?
No, steel's no good.
We can't all afford moon silver, honey.
No metal. Leather.
Orcs will likely be wearing pilfered steel.
I'm counting on it. If I do a strong enough spell, I can't really predict how it's gonna arc.
Of the 4 men present, only the professor had any idea what any of those words meant, and even he could barely comprehend how they could possibly relate to magic. For a moment they all just stared at Jen, before a shout interrupted their silence.
Cover!
All of the civic guard had been drilled in how to respond to this call. The children were not. Bryce and the professor had to haul the kids below the ramparts just before a hail of arrows fell around them.
So now you know what to do when someone yells cover.
Archers!
As the orc volley finished, the freehold soldiers stood smoothly, released their own volley of flaming arrows, and ducked right back down. And with that, the Battle of Freehold had begun. Heavy shields! Protect the engineers. Unleash the ballistas.
When your guard gets here, you're gonna move around to the north. Get from cover to cover between the volleys and trust the shield bearers. They're good at their jobs.
Time to nut up or shut up.
This comment prompted a raised eyebrow from Jen.
I meant it like a metaphor. That is a metaphor, right?
No, it's not.
I mean, you're gonna do great, Jenny. You have, like, serious lady nuts now.
No, I don't.
What in God's name are lady nuts?
Everyone knows what I meant.
Did you ever think of maybe reading the book?
I'm working on my vocabulary, okay?
I am an immortal being. I have spoken in the language of men, of elves, of trees, of rivers, even of squirrels, who often talk of nothing but nuts. Lady nuts, however. Billy never ceases to amaze me. Right, anyway, Billy was saved his embarrassment by the arrival of the shield-bearer brigade.
These are your boys. Listen when they say cover, and they'll keep you free of any holes you don't want.
As if to demonstrate, the 12 soldiers threw their heavy oaken shields up, just as another rain of arrows fell. All the shafts fell harmlessly into the thick wood.
Go. Now.
Billy, Jen, and Nelson ran to the northern wall of Freehold, accompanied by their guard detail. The rebel forces had advanced to the base of the wall itself in this quarter, and thick Templar fog had brought premature midnight to the battle. Arrows were falling, men were screaming, and countless orcs were swarming the walls, trying to climb up and establish a foothold on the battlements. The men were holding, but the orc numbers were great. Slowly the Freehold garrison was giving up precious territory atop the walls. None of the combatants paid any notice at all to the newcomers joining the battle. That is, nobody paid any notice until a bolt of blue lightning shot from a young woman's hands into an orc just as he was cresting the top of the wall. Another bolt of lightning, another orc down. This bolt, as Jen had predicted, arced from the metal armor of one orc to another of his compatriots, and again to a nearby Freehold guardsman who did not get the message or chose to ignore it. Jen, for her part, either did not see her ally crumple to the ground or else forced herself to ignore it. She passed through the battle as if accompanied by an avatar of the gods. The shield bearers protected her from arrows, Billy and Nelson protected her flanks with short swords, and Jen brought electric death to the orcs. Soon the battle had turned. The orc battalion turned to flee, running from the blue lightning. They ran straight past their squad of Templars who had been busy conjuring the smoke. The three hooded and masked figures stopped their chant and watched Jen's magic from afar. With a nod from their leader, the three turned and calmly floated away. Atop the Freehold battlements, the obvious effect of this was the lifting of the preternatural fog. Moonlight hit the soldiers in the aftermath of that skirmish.
Hell yeah, get the fuck out!
They'll be back with another wave.
Yeah, and we'll kick their asses just like we kicked these guys' asses. Jen will lightning the shit out of them. Jenny, that was... Jen?
Jen was slumped against the battlement wall. Her breathing was shallow and her eyes glazed.
Is she hit?
What the fuck? You were supposed to protect us.
There weren't any arrows, though.
Jen! Jen!
With a start and a gasp, Jen returned to alertness.
What happened?
I don't know. All of a sudden, I was like, outside of myself. That was not fun.
The Templars who had retreated from the front returned swiftly to their quarters behind Traft's lines. They knelt beside a chest covered in strange and frightening runes, and, producing from their pockets keys of an eldritch design, opened the chest. It was packed with a coarse black powder. What follows in our tale is, well, it will be no more pleasant for me to tell than for you to hear. Mercifully, at around the same time as the Battle of Freehold, there was much else happening in the realm which will prove significant to our tale. So if you'll forgive this lapse in temporal verisimilitude, I would like to tell of these other events before we must return to the grim, grisly inevitable. Before we return to the terrible events which followed the Battle of Freehold, let us turn to another one of history's great crimes, Renaud d'Esprit. You remember Renaud, the self-styled nice necromancer. To the south of Iorden there exists a great sea named the South Sea. Gods damn, but whoever named the geography of this land has absolutely no creativity. You know who has creativity? Rabbits. I bet that Mr. Fluffy Toes would have come up with an exquisite name for this sea. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes. The weather of the South Sea is cold and tempestuous. The water is perilous, with massive icebergs both above and below the surface of the water, and gale-force winds driving icy rain across the water. It was through these conditions that Renaud d'Esprit was guiding a tiny rowboat accompanied by his general Maguire. Maguire, you will recall, was the one undead warrior who seemed to side with Nia in her disagreement with Renaud. I rather like Maguire, as the undead go. He's good folk. Under a dancing aurora, the tiny craft made land on one such iceberg.
This is it, then. The hitherto final resting place of your great warrior.
The ice drifts have shifted in the 3 millennia since the map was made, but it could not be any other place. Arden and his mighty hammer.
Good. I shall have his hammer, I shall have his loyalty, and then no one will dare refuse me.
The way down is certain to be perilous. Are you sure ye wish to proceed, Renaud?
Renaud took confident hold of Maguire's shoulders.
Maguire, I want you to listen to me. I have a good feeling about this, and I never ignore my feelings. Right then.
He headed into a crag in the ice.
Aye, good thing that's never led you into error before.
Back on the Yordic mainland, Nia sat by a still but steaming pool, peering at her reflection. Her face was heavily bandaged. The remainder of our party, that is, Queen Regan, Sir Brennan and Yelloween, were camped near this pool, having completed their quest in the cairn of evil untold. After a deep breath, Nia pulled the cloth from her face. Beneath were dark red scars, the price of fighting against Renault's poison spray. As she stared in dismay, Regan joined her.
Not so bad.
I suppose it could have been worse.
Nia, you a whore?
Pardon?
A stage player? Do you depend at all on what your face looks like?
Well, no, but that's not really the point.
Nia, what do you do? What are you good at?
I'm a scholar.
I lived in Armstrongott all my life. Some of the richest scholars I ever seen had faces like an orc's infected cock wrinkle.
I'm sure you think you're being helpful.
Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You got a great story to tell. Those fine-ass college boys are gonna be lined up at the gates to hear how you vanquished the necromancer.
Never figured you to be keen on college boys.
I'm not, but I was guessing you were.
Never?
I mean, not never. They're damn near shitting their pants the whole time, and they shoot their goo if you wink at them too hard, but it's nice to pull on someone's hair and not come up with lice.
I feel so vain for caring about a few marks on my face. But it just feels as if I've lost a part of myself I'll never have back.
Life's a series of things you don't get back. You keep living, though.
And on that encouraging note, if you wouldn't mind, I think I'd like some time to myself.
Suit yourself. I need a bath.
With her usual air of practicality, the Queen stripped nude and dove into the thermal pool. Nia, much less accustomed to such displays, averted her gaze, but not quickly enough to avoid seeing Regan's back. The flesh was riddled with scars, narrow lines crossing and recrossing the Queen's back. There was almost more scar than flesh.
Galenon's mercy.
There are easy ways and hard ways to get good with a saber. I couldn't afford the easy ways.
I'm sorry I made such a fuss over it.
It's all right. I kept living.
Nia, have you made any... Your Grace, pray forgive my intrusion.
Holding council meetings in the nude was not a habit of the late King Gunther, and so Brennan found himself quite unsure of how to proceed while his queen was bathing.
We're grown-ups, Brennan.
Nia, I had, if I could...
As you were, Sir Williamson. State your business.
Aye, Your Grace. I had hoped to inquire as to whether Nia had made any progress in discerning meaning from the tablet we found.
As a matter of fact, I have discovered something interesting.
Just now, Brennan noticed Nia's face.
So, those wounds did scar. I am sorry you had to face that, Nia.
She's over it. What'd you find on the tablet?
Nia's countenance indicated she may not have been as thoroughly over it as her queen had decreed. She soldiered on, however, reaching through her supplies for the etching she had taken of the stone tablet.
See these 4 characters? They repeat far more often than any other character here. It's almost as if they demarcate sentences of the text. Now, what would you need 4 of that could usefully start every sentence of something?
Cardinal directions.
That is indeed what I suspect, Caltia.
I must once again speak in protest of this investigation.
Your dissent has been duly noted, Caltia.
And entered into the royal record many, many times.
But Taïd Relotit specifically instructed us
Not to open the chest. And we didn't. For the thousandth time. Now can we please move on? I gotta take a piss, and I'd like to do it in peace.
We'll excuse ourselves so that Your Grace might,
I didn't say stop the council.
Your Grace?
You were saying about the directions, Nia?
As a wood sprite, I have seen or heard of hundreds of kings and queens since the dawn of time. Some of them had indeed preferred to hold council while bathing, or outdoors, or countless other foibles. But I can honestly say that what Regan had just done was a historical first.
Yes, well, my provisional assertion about the cardinal directions, of course, naturally suggests that this is some kind of map.
The Knights of the Wood gave us a map so that we could find them another map.
Or some manner of navigation guide. Though its value may derive from the document itself rather than its use as a map. Perhaps it is a key to translating these forgotten scripts.
Any idea what it's a map to?
Unfortunately, I'm no closer to identifying any real location connected to this map.
Kaltir, I think it is time we sought to break our fast, eh?
As you wish. I saw a warren of hares grazing near here this evening. 7 or 8 of them. Should be easy enough to track.
We 4 cannot eat 8 hares.
Any elf trained in the ways of the hunt will tell you it is a hunter's sacred and lawful duty to also cull the population of the prey. This maintains balance and order.
That will do, Kaltir.
Brennan watched Yelloween stride off into the bush. He waited until he judged the elf far out of earshot, and then waited an extra minute for safety before turning back to Nia.
Nia, do you have everything you need to continue your work once you have given the chest to reality?
My etching is as true to the original as it's ever going to be.
Good. I at least agree with Yellowin that we must not appear to disobey the Tarla here.
The Lord Commander is meeting us here, then.
I'll find you, she said. Gotta love that little threat snuck in there. Smooth bit of cock waving.
With respect, Your Grace, even queens must serve someone.
I only hope the children are safe. If the smoke on the horizon is any guide, Traft encroaches farther east each day.
We shall know by sundown whether we'll have help. If there's one thing the Knights of the Wood never are, it's late.
Back in the South Sea, Renault and Maguire were deep within a frozen cavern, hidden among the ice floes. By torchlight, the two cautiously proceeded through the cave, though Renault was not so cautious as to bother shutting his mouth for a moment. Gods forbid.
In truth, Maguire, this is about ethics in academic...
By the holy matron. There it is.
The light of the torch fell upon an ancient stone altar. Atop this altar sat a massive warhammer, more like a slab of iron than a proper hammer, mounted on a wooden staff bound in ancient mummified leather.
No man could count how many of the invaders were crushed by that fell iron. That means...
The undead general cast the torchlight around the altar until he found a wall of ice, its glassy smoothness standing out among the rough stone of the cave. Lifting the light higher, it became obvious that a figure of a man was frozen in the ice. Calling it a man may be an understatement. The figure was easily 7 feet tall, as naked as the day he was born apart from his blue war paint, and entirely encased in the wall of ice.
This is he.
None other. Arden the Annihilator, the greatest warrior who ever lived, and likely will ever live. Not the sharpest spear in the armory, though.
Splendid. All the better to bend to my intellect.
Aye, that's what I ought to talk to you about. Arden saw mages, druids, scholars, anyone clever, really, as threats. And Arden did not suffer threats gladly. He killed them.
You're saying I should try to conceal my intellect.
I'm saying Arden will take one look at ye and cave your skull in.
Why have you only told me this now?
Because I hate you, Renault.
You what?
I hate ye from deep down in my soul. I hate everything you are. I hate everything you stand for. I just plain hate your wanker face.
This is... Maguire, I thought we were friends.
That's because you care too little about other people's feelings to bloody listen to them, which is another thing I hate about ye. But it turns out I'm not completely without honor. So I leave you the choice.
And why should I not part you from this false life I have given you right here and now?
Speak any of the old tongues, do ye? Arden knows not a word of the common. And what's more, he hates the sound of it. The braying of slaves, he called it. So do as ye will, ye bastard pox of a boy.
How dare you? I am the greatest mage, technically, alive.
Well, I don't know about that.
You impudent fool, I gave you life.
Necromancy's not as impressive as you think. Happened all the time in my world. Reviving the Annihilator would be impressive, I'll admit. But no one would hold it against you if you weren't clever enough.
We shall see who's clever and who isn't, Maguire, you arrogant son of a whore.
We certainly will.
Thus begins my greatest feat yet.
Aided by magic, the torch flame suddenly flared high. In the heat, the wall of ice began to melt. On the plains outside Castle Guernathal, Julius Mooncrest had the unfortunate task of planning both a siege and a funeral. He directed arrangements from within his command tent.
The engine builders will be here by the morrow?
Yes, my lord. Shall we commence the blockade?
Yes, do it. But do not commence bombardment until I give the order. I will know when the time is right. Has our page delivered the declaration of war?
He has gone, my lord, but not yet returned.
Come, let us pay our respects to the memory of my dear nephew.
In the labyrinthine tunnels below Castle Guernathal, one of the more uncouth members of Redmoor's garrison, which is saying something, had detained a small boy.
What's in the purse?
The child shook his head defiantly.
What's in the purse, you little shit?
This prompted the child to clutch the cloth purse in question even tighter.
Give it here!
That's not yours.
Oh, what's this then?
He opened the purse and produced a silver coin.
You stealing from the gentry? They'll have both your hands for that.
I didn't steal it.
And they'll have your tongue for lying.
It was a gift.
A gift?
Yeah, from Lord Corlin.
Don't you know there's a tax on gifts, you idiot?
What tax?
I'm keeping this and letting you off with a warning. Next time you get a gift and don't pay the tax, I'll whip you silly. Now off with you.
The child shot his captor one last dirty look before scurrying off. The guard chuckled to himself.
Tax on gifts.
That's when a hand shot out of the darkness and pulled the guard away. The child was running along another section of the tunnels when a commanding whisper stopped him in his tracks.
Wait, child.
Who is there?
This is yours, is it not?
A silver coin rolled along the ground to stop at the child's foot.
Who are you? Where'd you find this?
I took it from the man who took it from you. It was not his to take.
Is this a trick?
No, child. Too long have you suffered wanton injustice with no recourse. Ardell Redmoor is a wicked blight upon this keep and its people. But now, justice has come, and Redmoor shall fall.
Are you an assassin? Like the one who killed the king?
Ardell Redmoor killed the king. But I am not an assassin. You can call me the spirit of justice.
What, like a ghost? Ghosts ain't real.
The man who took your coin will trouble you no more. That is very real. You can wait and see if you don't believe me.
What do you want?
As I've said, justice. Tell me, child, as I do not know this keep as well as you. We are near the pantry and below the great hall, are we not?
Early the next morning, as Ardell Redmoor marched towards his breakfast with a retinue of his personal guard, he was frustrated to find himself unable to cease conversation with the castle's ancient head priest.
There have been ill omens, my lord.
Omens?
Troubling signs amongst my more gifted acolytes.
This is what could not possibly wait until after my breakfast.
As you once said, my lord, the servile classes are prone to superstition and panic. You would not want to be on the wrong side of those base instincts.
And why would I find myself there?
Well, my lord, if one did not know better, or was hasty, one could interpret the omens as, speaking ill of your regency.
Are you implying something, Your Eminence?
But of course not, my lord.
I don't give a damn what the rabble thinks of my regency. They did not appoint me Lord Regent, the gentry did.
Redmore's guards began the laborious process of opening the doors to the Great Hall.
And the gentry have steel, should it come to that.
Oh, dear.
And if the guards take issue with how I conduct my affairs, they can sodding well tell me themselves.
When Ardell turned to enter the hall, he saw a bloody dagger held by a severed hand and suspended in mid-air. This certainly caught his attention. Close inspection would reveal the grisly token to be suspended by a thin bit of twine, but this did not lessen the initial shock.
Well, that certainly got the bowels moving.
At the rooster's call, Arlene and Gwen awoke in each other's arms between a scratchy straw bed and a threadbare quilt at the horse's head inn. It was the most content that either woman could ever recall having been.
Good morning.
Certainly is.
What is it?
I was scared I'd wake up and it'd be all a dream.
Good fortune is better reveled in than questioned.
As if to reassure her, Arlene placed a soft but lengthy kiss on Gwen's lips.
Convinced, my love?
Not yet.
What about the morning's work?
It can wait. I finally found a chore I like doing.
It was thus that Gwen could not quite contain a somewhat ribald grin as she set about the chores for which Madame Bailey was actually paying her. She knelt beside a gentle stream with linens and a clump of soap and set to scrubbing. A rabbit approached the stream, keeping a cautious distance from Gwen and eyeing her with great suspicion.
Hello there.
Deeming Gwen not an imminent threat, the rabbit drank from the stream.
And what are you doing out this time of morning? Thought you was more for the night. You know, we're probably not all that different. Always looking over our shoulder for ox or snakes or some other nasty thing. My ox and snakes are man-shaped, but it comes out the same.
Its thirst sated, the rabbit tentatively hopped towards Gwen and smelled her.
No, I don't have any food for you. Sweet thing. And don't go round begging. It's unbecoming of you. It's a proud creature what faces everything you've faced.
The rabbit permitted Gwen to pet it and permitted itself to relax.
Of course, there's advantages to all that danger.
Gwen looked around as if to divulge a dark secret, but her cheeky smile belied she was merely amusing herself.
I bet you fuck just as often as you can. Me too.
The rabbit's ears snapped up, its every muscle tense.
What?
The rabbit darted off like an arrow, sprinting away with all its might.
Ugh. I would meet Iorden's only prude of a rabbit.
That was when Gwen finally turned her attention back to the water.
Gods!
The white linens were pink as the water ran red with blood. Gwen leapt back from the water to see her hands were blood-soaked too. Fighting back waves of panic and disgust, she crouched low and crept cautiously up the nearby hill to get a better look upstream. As she crested the hill, she froze. The panic was gone from Gwen's eyes, replaced by wholly rational fear. Beside the river lay a body submerged to the waist, spewing blood, and draped in a filthy one-piece garment.
No one knows you were here, Gwen. You can go back to the inn and forget all about this.
She searched her soul, hoping she would feel convinced.
Gods damn it.
Gwen approached the body and looked around to make sure no one could see her. With a heave, she flipped the body face up and gasped at what she saw. Its skin was grey, not from rot, but a vibrant, recently living grey. She was ornamented with colourful paint, a female orc. When Gwen pushed back her hair in disbelief, she realised that some of the grey had gotten on her hands. She plunged her hand into the stream and was relieved to see the grey wash off. Then she realised how little sense this made.
Wait.
She splashed some water onto the orc and scrubbed. The grey washed off, revealing human flesh tones beneath.
What in Selberine? Gods!
Gwen dove back with a fright.
Please, save. You're tired. Why don't you take a little rest? Then everything will be all right. No, not save. Just close your eyes and drift off to sleep. Save. I can't save you, all right? You're hurt too bad. No, save, child.
The orc let out her last breath and fell still. That was when Gwen finally noticed the cloth bundle wrapped up tightly beside the orc. The nausea of realization hit her hard. She crawled to the bundle and slowly unwrapped it, knowing perfectly well what she would find. Which brings us back full circle to that which can no longer be avoided. So next, I'm afraid, I must recount to you the gruesome conclusion to the first book of our tale. In the blackness before the dawn, the fortress of Freehold was beset on 3 sides by Traft's host. The battle was bloody and terrible, but Jen remained a formidable fighting force. Billy and Nelson were redoubtable in their own rights. The boys helped keep attackers clear from Jen as her lightning spells did their grisly work.
Scaling the north wall!
Jen's entourage of shield bearers and friends reformed around her.
Ready?
Let's do it.
They ran off and arrived at the north wall, again just in time for Jen to break a brutal stalemate. But this was all taking a toll on the poor girl.
You are losing yourself, child.
Jen looked around, frightened, searching for the source of the horrible voice.
You lack the skill now, but we can teach you. Come to us, Stormbringer.
What's...
Jen! You need some rest.
I'll rest later.
Be smart. You gotta know when to take some bench time.
West wall! All available men to the west wall! High Commander's orders!
It's okay to sit this one out, Jenny.
This sounds like a pretty big wave.
That's why I need to be there. Shield bearers, on me!
On the western wall, Bryce Riverfell looked out at enemy torches beyond counting.
Gods damn it, they can't have many more waves after that. Tell the men to...
Bryce paused when he saw the torches of Traft's horde rapidly splitting apart to give way to something else.
What is Selberine? Traft has war elephants! Get those ballistas loaded!
Holy shit. Are those elephants?
Or else I'm the High King of Iorden.
Wow, really going for the full Minas Tirith here.
Yellowwing told us the elephants were wiped out when they built the tower.
It appears the elves are fallible then. If the ballistas can't take them down, I need you to stop them.
You mean...
Stop them before they get to the gates. Can you do it?
Can't you aim for the legs or something?
Even if we hit them, you think that'd be any better for the poor things? You can do it quicker and cleaner.
Oh, crap. I need some time to focus. I'll need to get a lot of current moving. More than I ever have.
How can we help?
Cover my ass, get me some water.
Y'all heard the lady. Water.
Billy, talk to me.
About what?
Just whatever. I just need to hear your voice. It brought me back when I was getting lost or whatever.
Jen closed her eyes and concentrated. The world around her hummed in its special way.
Okay. Did I ever tell you about the game against North Scranton?
Like 1,000,000 times.
Shut up, Nelson.
Baby, I love you and I'm proud of you, but Honestly, I drown out most of your football stories at this point. I'm sorry.
Ouch.
I need something I haven't heard before.
Not to rush a delicate moment, ladies and gents, but,
Okay. Nelson, if you give me crap about this, I will pull your arms off, shove them up your asshole, and give myself a high five down your throat. I love you so much, Jen.
I love you too.
Her long blonde hair was standing straight on end.
I love you, and you impress the shit out of me. It's scary how smart you are, and that's how I know you're gonna get us through this.
Traft's war elephants drew closer.
You figure everything out so quick. You're gonna pull this spell off, and we're gonna win.
That was when Nelson noticed something. He squinted through his spectacles to see better.
We're gonna win, and you're gonna be the hero. And you deserve it.
Finally, as they were only yards away, Nelson got a clear look at the elephants.
Jen, wait!
Jen sent a tremendous lightning bolt at the elephants, which Nelson saw too late were covered in hundreds of small clay pots. Jen's spell ignited the thunder dust, which sent a hurricane gale of fire and air towards the gates of Freehold. The sturdy doors were blown to splinters, slicing the men in the courtyard into a hideous pink mist. Atop the wall, soldiers were knocked to their feet, unable to hear and barely able to stand straight. Through rigorous force of will and even more rigorous training, General Riverfell maintained just enough presence of mind.
Move! Everybody move! It's coming down!
Those standing grabbed those who couldn't, and all made haste away from the walls. The thick stone edifice trembled, then quaked, then fell to the ground. Traft's army cheered with wild abandon as they saw Freehold's west wall collapse.
Now is the moment you've waited too long for. Avenge your fallen loved ones. Show the Easterners what fear means. All columns, full assault. Charge!
Out in front of the crumbled walls, the Freehold garrison was not ready for Traft's charge, but it is to Bryce's great credit that they were in the neighborhood of readiness.
Anyone who can hold a fucking pike, get your ass to the front. Hold the line. Anyone deserts now is gonna wish an orc killed them. Professor!
I'm here, Bryce.
let the mage and her friends leave.
It's been a pleasure, Bryce. At least we took plenty of them to Selbrun with us.
We're here.
I think you all should make a tactical retreat.
We said we'd see this through.
When they get through, the realm's gonna need you. Don't waste your damn lives. If you don't haul ass right now, it's gonna be too late.
Jen, maybe he's got a point.
Billy, I've spent my whole life feeling like I wasn't strong enough. I won't do that anymore.
I don't want to die, Jen.
Go if you have to.
Jenny, come on.
No, get off of me.
I'm not leaving you here to die.
The orcs thundered towards Freehold. Smith the Smith even led a small column of his own.
For Mary!
They were but 50 yards away now.
For Carol!
And then, a lone crossbow bolt fell through the sky and skewered Smith through the neck. Before anyone noticed, 3 more bolts fell, and then it was raining death. Cresting a hill on the orcs' north flank came 500 Knights of the Wood, their gilded armor gleaming in the freshly risen sun. Their repeating crossbows pattered out a symphony of the rebels' doom. Relotit, Lord Commander of the Tarlohil, led the terrible swift charge, but Brennan and Yilluin rode right beside her. When the trumpet blasts reached Riverfell's lines, the old general simply closed his eyes in silent prayer while his men cheered.
Galadin's mercy. The Tarlohil.
Decimated by the crossbow barrage, the orcish lines were in complete disarray. When Rhee's riders closed to within 100 yards, they slung their crossbows on their saddles and drew their sabers.
What happened?
Our salvation happened. Look!
The Knights of the Wood leveled their sabers at their foes. That is when the rout became a slaughter. Traft's demoralized lines shattered like crystal on stone. Many orcs dropped their weapons and turned to flee, but these were ridden down and slain just like the others. Yillowin's bow did terrible work from horseback. Brennan dismounted amidst the fray. Despite the knight's age, he and his axe lived up to their fearsome reputation. The rebel General Traft surveyed the battlefield, hoping desperately for some sign that the fight was not in vain. Though it broke his heart, his tactical insight told him plainly that all was lost, that to stay and fight meant only his futile death. He grabbed an abandoned horse and fled. But Relotied saw him and gave chase. She let loose with her crossbow. Traft looked back over his shoulder just in time to duck out of the way. Ree loosed again and again, but Traft was a nimble rider, and she could not close the distance to him. When the last bolt in Ree's magazine zipped past Traft's head, she reined in her mount. As she watched the half-orc escape, she looked disturbingly satisfied with herself, though no one was there to notice it. She trotted back to her victorious troops and raised her saber in celebration. Back at Riverfell's lines, the celebrations were interrupted by a scout's alarm.
Rider approaching!
100 pikes snapped to the ready. The children looked in the direction of the scout's gaze, but smiled at what they saw.
They're with us!
Regan and Nia rode in together and stopped when they saw Billy, Jen, and Nelson.
Oh, thank Galadin you're alive!
Front lines? Gods, I thought I taught you better than that.
I had a lot of men who weren't so lucky. You two are?
Our friends.
Our chaplain and arms bearer.
You must be General Riverfell. I'm Nia, an acolyte of the Holy Brotherhood. I meant no insult to your honored dead. I was only relieved to see these three. I would of course perform last rites for any of your men if you so desire.
I appreciate that, Nia. We'll talk once we've gathered the dead and wounded.
What are you guys doing here?
Brennan sent us. In case that charge didn't go as planned and we needed to get you three out of town.
Fortunately, it did go as planned.
Ree approached, flanked by Brennan and Yillowin. Bryce and all of his men dropped to their knees.
Lord Commander.
General, as you were.
We sure are glad to see you. General Brennan, you as well. You saved my ass.
It's Sir Williamson now.
That's so. You saved my ass, sir.
That was freaking awesome. Some straight Riders of Rohan shit. Stone has to tell me the whole story. I want to start writing some of this stuff down.
A very worthy pursuit, Nelson. I would be glad to help.
I am literate.
General Riverfell, your men performed commendably against nigh insurmountable odds.
Took you long enough to show up, though.
Don't.
Squire William, I would remind you that we are Knights of the Wood, and Knights of the Wood are never late or early. We always arrive precisely when we mean to.
Regan remained silent, but took careful note of the edge in the elf's voice.
Yeah, but you didn't arrive when we needed you to. That's what late means.
General Riverfell locked Billy in a very efficient grapple to ensure his silence.
He's had a long day, Lord Commander. I'm not ashamed to say these three were indispensable to the battle.
Is that so?
Especially Jen.
Mostly Jen.
Perhaps the path of the squire suits you after all. It would warm my heart to see a female called knight in the realms of men.
Thank you, Taid.
We'll be feasting tonight, Lord Commander. Will you join us?
Afraid not, General. We must push our advantage, of course.
There's hardly an orc left breathing.
On this battlefield, there's likely to be others traveling nearby. You might be tempted to call them squires or support staff, but in truth, it's just whoever was loafing around the hive and decided they wanted to spill man blood.
In that case, Taid, it would be my greatest honor to join you in your hunt.
Stay, Eloine, and rejoice with the Memmiad you have sworn to serve.
Regan's hawkish eyes never left Taid Relotit's face.
With your permission, Taid, the Kaltir and I would sleep easier knowing the threat has been quelled once and for all.
A tinge of annoyance crossed Ree's visage. This was not lost on Regan.
Have faith, Sir Brennan. If the Talohil say a threat shall be dealt with, it shall be dealt with.
Of course, Taid.
Can a few extra hands really hurt?
Are you a tactician, arms bearer? We depend on discipline. Your master and his retainers are competent warriors, but my knights and I have trained and ridden together for near half a century. If a single link in the chain were to weaken at a crucial moment, then yes, extra hands can hurt.
Regan settled back into her saddle with new private knowledge, but certainly not satisfaction.
I wish you all an enjoyable feast and bid you good evening.
Who else needs a drink?
A short while later, in the now bustling dining hall at Freehold, Bryce Riverfell raised a cup to his men. They saluted him as best they knew how. His men applauded wildly as Bryce emptied his cup in one gulp. When he gestured to our children, prompting them to bow, the cheers grew even more rapturous. And so the victory feast began. Fowl and sausage and bread and rice poured from the kitchen. Ale and mead and wine ran like water. Soldiers sung songs of great heroes past. Jen and Billy embraced, first with innocent joy, and then with not so innocent joy. Jokes were told, some more decorous than others.
So then the jester goes, "That's just what the princess said!"
Oh my.
Nelson took in all the revelry around him and, having borrowed one of Nia's quills, set to writing down as much as he could. This pleased Nia greatly. By nightfall, everyone in the hall was well fed and well drunk and grinning like a fool. And oh, my prince, how I wish I could end our tale there, with our heroes safe and happy among friends. But if you've listened so far, you know such stories are never so simple. For that night, as our heroes slept, some of them dreamt. Brennan, Nia, Yelloween, and Billy found themselves together in an endless banquet hall of blinding white.
What the fuck is this shit?
We are dreaming.
Sir Brennan and I have had strange dreams of late, but never together like this. Kaltir, have you dreamed as well?
Certainly not like this.
And you, Billy?
Nah, this is some Nelson shit.
Hey guys.
They turned to see Nelson, seated at the head of the banquet table.
What's up, Nelson?
I think you guys are supposed to sit.
Have you had dreams like this as well, Nelson?
I told you I don't remember my dreams, but this place feels weirdly familiar.
That was when the red and gold birds, which Brennan first dreamed so many weeks ago, on the night before he met our heroes, appeared. Strangely, they flocked around Nelson.
I've been having a thought for some time, which until now has been too far-fetched to speak out loud. But Nelson, I think there is some possibility that, however small, a part of you may be more than human.
I'm with you, Nelson.
Then emerged the young girl, from all of Brennan and Nia's recent dreams, complete with the bloody hole in her chest.
What the fuck?
She came to rest at Nelson's shoulder and whispered in his ear.
She says,
There are 7 things you must know to save me?
Yeah. The 7th thing is, chaos takes many forms, but death rides a horse.
In the tent in Freehold's courtyard, where the party was sleeping, Jen stirred restlessly and woke. She was spared the strange dream, but sleep also eluded her. Rubbing the grogginess out of her eyes, she saw all of her companions asleep except for one missing bedroll. Regan's. In the fields outside Freehold, Regan knelt by a grey, muddy puddle, checking its consistency with her finger. Although Jen's leather shoes made barely a doe's whisper on the cold, wet ground, Regan heard her approach from 20 yards away.
Couldn't sleep?
Where are you going?
The Thief Queen stood and faced Jen.
The elves don't want us with them now because of tactics and discipline, but it was fine for us to ride a charge with them?
I mean, she was lying, but... whatever. They don't want us with them.
When someone lies to your face, it's not just an insult. It's a threat. They know something, and they're making sure you don't. I gotta know what the elves don't want us to know.
So what? You're gonna follow them? It's a whole army with, super senses or whatever.
I haven't lived this long by staying uninformed. 20 times out of 21, it's a damn fool decision. But that one time it saves your ass is worth it. And I have a feeling that soon the elves are gonna be paying me a lot more mind than I'd prefer, whether I want it or not.
You want some blankets?
Nah, can't really stop if I'm gonna catch up on foot.
It's cold out.
Good.
Regan scooped up a generous handful of mud and applied it liberally under her arms and between her legs.
I can't afford to sweat.
You know you're actually crazy, right?
Stay tough. Stay smart. Trust yourself.
Where should I tell everyone to meet you?
I'll find you.
Regan winked at the girl and stalked off. Tracking a single person or animal requires great skill, training, and perception. Tracking a large cavalry division requires only eyes and common sense. Tracking 500 Knights of the Wood against their explicit wishes requires eyes, common sense, and a certain desperate tenacity only known to those who have spent much of their lives with very little to lose. Thus, Ronna Regan had a fairly easy time picking up the trail of the Tar Lohiel from the battlefield at Freehold and into the surrounding pines. 2 days into her search, she found a hastily abandoned campsite where the hundreds of hoofprints were joined by dozens of footprints. She climbed a hill from which she could see the procession of footsteps and staggered from exhaustion. She had not slept in quite some time now, and judged she couldn't be far from the Black Mountains at this point. She was not wrong. She pushed through her exhaustion, knowing she could not afford to give any ground. It was yet another day before she found the shortcut through an overgrown brook and got out ahead of the footprints she was tracking. Knowing she could not fight back sleep for much longer, she climbed a tall, dense tree, surrounded herself with the thickest branches, tied herself into her bedroll, and let slumber carry her off. Regan jerked awake and nearly fell from her perch. Judging herself still concealed, she moved aside some branches and cautiously peered into the clearing below her. Ree and her heavily armed and armoured knights surrounded a ragged, barely clothed procession. Orcs. But these orcs were women and children, some even infants. Regan reflected on the fact that she had never once heard a story about an infant orc. Ree called a halt.
Steamer!
Her knights stopped and took long swigs from their canteens, while their captors watched thirstily. One of the boy orcs, who did not look to have any more than 10 years, staggered where he stood, dizzy with thirst, and fell to his knees. An older female nearby cried out in alarm. Relotit nodded towards the boy, and 2 of her knights dismounted and calmly strode towards him.
Nein, mildness, wieder mildness.
For all that Ronna Regan had seen and endured, her eyes still went wide with shock as the elves coldly restrained the boy and opened his throat. There was a terrible second of desperate silence in the crowd. With the grief and fury that only a mother can know, the woman charged at Relotit and was cut down in her tracks by no less than 3 repeating crossbows. It was then the crowd went mad, some with panic and some with rage. One willful boy managed to strike an elf with his fist, which was all the provocation the elves needed to unleash a brutal wrath. Crossbow bolts flew in every direction, refusing to discriminate between the frightened and the mad. Some tried in vain to fight. Mostly mothers tried to shield their children, but this was also in vain. Regan watched the whole bloody scene play out beneath her. A quiet, impotent rage simmered behind her eyes as she cursed herself for 1,000 things she had failed to realize before now. Thus concludes the first book of our tale. For additional information and bonus content, access onceandfuturenerd.com on your computer machine. The Once and Future Nerd is written and created by Zach Glass and Christian Madera, and directed by Christian Madera. It is performed by
Rhiannon Angel,
Garrett Orman, Dan Dobransky,
Lily Drexler,
Anya Gibeon,
Ian Harkins,
Paul Notice,
Frank Quares,
Julie Reed,
Gregory M. Schultz.
It is co-executive produced by Jess Kelly. Alex Story is an associate producer. The Once and Future Nerd is recorded by Brian Forbes at the Gallery Recording Studio in Brooklyn, New York, with additional audio engineering by Sam Palumbo. Foley, sound design, and mixing is done by Sandra Ramirez. It is edited by Josh Perot and Christian Madera. Theme music is composed by Tom Lee. Additional music by Christopher Montalbo.